So those of you that watch us for our dinghy sailing could be forgiven for thinking that we've given up, but it's not the case. It's just that we don't do as much as we used to, and to be frank, dinghy sailing is just a pain to film, or at least to make it look interesting. There's plenty of people that just stick a camera on the back, but you don't really see much then, do you? But anyway, this is a 59er, and that's our new dinghy. And I've just bought some new sails, but getting new sails for a 59er is not that straightforward in the UK anymore, because they haven't sold one for 10 years. And Ovingtons, who are the manufacturer, stroke importer, whatever, could get me one, but they don't keep them in stock, and it wouldn't be that straightforward, because as a class it's kind of died. Let me explain a little bit about the history of the boat, and then you'll understand why I've bought what I've bought, and then I'll show you how good it is. So the 59er is designed by the Bethwaites, Frank Bethwaite in this instance, who quite literally wrote the book on performance sailing. I think it is called Performance Sailing by Frank Bethwaite. And anyone who sails a performance dinghy will know of that book if they haven't actually read it. I've got a very dog-eared copy at home. And Julian, his son, was one of the most influential designers, sailors in the sort of 80s and 90s of 18-foot skiff sailing, back when the 18-foot skiffs were proper development class boats, and they went through huge changes. And Julian, in '96, Julian released the 49er on the world, which rewrote performance sailing, certainly from a manufacturer one design kind of basis. I'm sure there were international 14s and stuff that might have been going as fast, but from a one design point of view, it just rewrote sailing. There's the time before the 49er, and then there's everything afterwards. And then 2 years after that, he did that for the Olympic trials. The Olympics were trying to replace the Flying Dutchman. He developed the 49er, and it won the trials handsomely and became the Olympic boat. 2 years after that, he released the 29er, which in my eyes is one of the best designed boats of all time. It's loosely along the same lines as the 49er, but it's the sum of its parts. It's basically a not particularly light standard fiberglass hull with not a particularly impressive rig. It's just an aluminium mast with a sort of fiberglass top section. Nothing particularly special about it. The sails are quite flat. It's got a single trapeze. It's kind of all the normal single trapeze kind of things of its day, except it sails so much faster. It was built around the same time that Topper made the Buzz and Laser made the 3000, and yet the 29 is so much faster and so much more. It's so much harder to sail, but so much more, in my eyes anyway, fulfilling to sail. It's really good. We had a 29er in, when was it? Late 2000s-ish. We called it Uncle Fungus because we bought it from Bell Beach Sailing Club, where it had been sitting under the trees gathering moss and was completely green. And when I inquired about it, I found out that the reason it was green is because it had a hole in the bottom. Something had got on the trailer when it had been put on the trailer and punched a hole right up through, just behind or just in front of the centreboard case. Anyway, we bought that boat, we fixed it up. We got everyone to contribute to the cost of new sails for it, for our wedding present. Gives you an idea about Hannah and I's priorities when we got married. And we sailed that boat for years and loved it. Then of course Hannah got pregnant, and the 29er, flying around on the trapeze on a 29er is not the sort of boat to sail when you're pregnant, so we sold it, and we've been in other boats ever since then. Anyway, the point of telling that story is that was '98. In 2002, Frank designed the 59er, which is a hiking boat for larger people, was the sort of marketing kind of ploy, but along the same lines as the 29er, 49er, similar sort of hull shape, similar sort of sailing characteristics. Sorry, I'm fidgeting around because I'm kneeling on a gravel bit of the boat park, so it's not that comfortable. Anyway, he designed a 59er, and to be frank, it never really took off. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the UK we already had the RS 400 and a plethora of other hiking boats like the Merlin Rockets and so forth. So it never really took off, and then they tried to market it with a trapeze on it, and of course you know, then there was other single trapeze boats, and the sort of single trapeze for bigger people market is sort of dying off in the UK. Again, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but they never really found a market for it, so it just kind of fizzled out. So anyway, coming back to our time, Hannah and I were looking around for a boat to sail together. I'm trying to get Hannah to come dinghy sailing more often because she's not been doing it recently because Izzy's had hockey and one thing or another. And we were talking about, well, maybe we should get another 29er again, except we're a bit older, fatter, less mobile than we were back then. And it didn't seem like the right boat. But then this 59er came up for sale, and I thought, I know, we'll stick a trapeze on that, like I know people have done. And that would be like a big 29er for us, a bit more stable, a bit more powerful, but that'd be perfect for us. So we bought it. And it's a good boat, it's in really good condition. Apparently, I'm told, it was like the original demo boat that Ovington's built, sail number 100. If you know any different, feel free to let us know in the comments. But it's in excellent condition. It clearly hasn't been used that much, and it clearly has been used on, you know, fresh water rather than salt water, or at least it's been well looked after when it has been on salt water. And the only thing really wrong with it are the sails, which kind of gets us closer to the point of the story. So, as I said, I contacted Ovington's. I said, yeah, we can get you some, yeah, it would take some time, and obviously you're going to pay top dollar for them and stuff. So I then said to him, well, I heard back after the 59, and the next boat they developed. This may not be the next boat, but the next boat I know of anyway was a 29er XX. That was cool because the 49er had done such a good job of in the Olympics as a man's performance dinghy, but because it's a comparatively stable hull of 49. It's not that hard to sail. It's just got an enormous amount of sail area, and you need a bit of strength and muscle and weight to hustle the thing around the course. So it was deemed a bit too big for the women, so they were looking for a performance dinghy for the women, which, as we know now, is now the 49er FX, which is a 49er with a slightly smaller rig on it. But back then, one of the boats they tried to do was what they called a 29er XX. That's what Julian developed. Hold on, I'm just going to get a chair. That's much better. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first place. That is, if you can see me. I've just realised the sun's not on me, is it? But anyway, developed the 29er XX as a contender for the women's Olympic fast trapeze boat. And the rumour on the interwebs was that what they did to start with was stick a 59er rig on a 29er, which then made me think, well, maybe a 29er XX sails will fit on a 59er if they were, you know, at the same time. So I said to him, have you got any 29er XX sails, and would they fit on a 59er? To which he said, yes, we got sails, but I've no idea. But he did say, I'll do you a deal on sails and try them, and if they don't fit, send them back and I'll refund your money. So it's going to cost me a bit of money in carriage, but otherwise I thought, well, that's actually a fair gamble. So I've ordered a jib and a main for a 29er XX to go on our 59. And I pulled them up the other day, and they fit not perfectly, but really well, and I would argue the main's actually better, and the jib, well, not quite so good, but still good enough. So I've rolled them out on the grass, so I'm going to show you what the difference is. So if we start at the head, you kind of notice that it's lost some on the leech, but the bolt rope is quite got more. It's kind of just a different shape, and I suspect a lot of that is because the original sails are quite old now and have shrunk. It's got a little bit more sail area at the top because it's got a square head to it with this diagonal batten that's kind of going up there, so it'll make it a bit more gust responsive. It is, when I get down to the end here, you've lost 2 or 3 inches on the foot, which actually is a little bit of a problem because it barely fits on the boom now because of where the main sheet fitting goes. When I pull it up, I'll show it to you. But it's not a problem, it fits all right. There's obviously more sail area down the bottom here, and that's a good thing, because one of the things with the 59er as it is the boom's a little bit up in the air, and to me anyway it doesn't look quite right. This is levelling out the boom to make it look a lot more like it was fitted for it. But basically it's the same sail area, slightly different shape, but it pulls up the mast beautifully. So I'll stick that on the boat and I'll get the jib out and I'll show you a difference in the jib. So now I've laid it on top of the main, it's not so easy to see this, is it, because you can't see the sail underneath. But basically the new jib is 8 inches longer at the top, basically the same shape, arguably a little bit more, I don't suppose you call it roach on the jib, do you, but size in the middle of the jib down there. But the real thing that causes the sort of slight problem is that the clew position is 6 inches further inboard, or 4 or 5 inches further inboard, which means that because the 59er has a sail track, a track for the self-tacking jib, you can't easily adjust the position of the sheeting angle that goes onto the jib itself, which is why these jibs have like 3 positions, so you can clip it into each position to suit different wind strengths or to tune it. But that's not really enough to compensate for that. So what I've done is at the clew end I've lashed a bit of rope to let me raise the clew up a bit. That in turn moves the whole jib up, which helps get that sheeting angle back into the right position. So I'll pull them up now and let you see. And at the moment I haven't sailed the boat with them, so I don't know quite how they behave. But what I can tell you is that I can just tell from looking at them on the side here, they're going to be a considerable improvement over the tired old sails that came with it. The good and the bad thing about laminate sails is they don't kind of flog and lose their shape like Dacron sails do, but they do tend to shrink, and these sails are quite old, and although they look like they've got a good shape, it isn't going to be the same shape that they were designed to have. So I just know that new sails that fit as well as these do, even if they're not cut perfectly for this boat, are going to be a big step up. Anyway, they look good. Let me pull them up and you'll see what I mean. There we go. Show the top of the mast as well. Doesn't that look smart? The keen-eyed will have noticed as well that I made our own logo for it. It's now 59er XX to keep it in line with what it actually is. Because of course the 29er XX was a 29er with an extra trapeze, and this is the 59er XX with an extra trapeze. So I figure that works all right. Let me just quickly show you around the boat. So as you can see, the jib, which would normally be, the clew would normally be in there, is now a bit higher up. But with the nature of the deck of the boat, it doesn't look out of place. I'm sure it would be quicker with it down lower, because it would effectively end plate the jib along the side of the hull when it's over it. Now we've got a gap, which isn't as good, but otherwise it fits perfectly. The sheeting angle, I can't really tell. Until I get some strength from the breeze, but it looks good. That's the way self-tacking jib works, by the way. Just a track across the front of the boat, salted up a bit. Works from, we have a jib sheet here, runs through the boat up to a block up there, across here to this floating pulley, which gives you some sort of 2-to-1 purchase on it, and it's that floating pulley then that moves when the sail moves. Works well. Sail controls, it's got a nav rather than a conventional kicker, which is that strut. With this new sail on it, because the boom's down lower, the foot of the strut is further along the boom, so I've had to shorten this rope that goes to it. So there's a bit of adjustment, same as the jib, where I've now, it's a slightly taller in the head anyway, and where I've had to pull it further up the mast, I've had to shorten the tail on that on the jib halyard as well, which if you've got a wire halyard might be a pain, but I suspect they're all roped like this one, so you just tie a knot a bit further up. Controls themselves then, that nav strut has got 5-6-to-1 purchase up the top here that comes down here, yellow rope going through the deck, which then splits into another 2-to-1 down here, and is fed out to jam cleats on each side, and then the red one is the Cunningham, which again goes down through. And what they do, because they have this pocket that folds around the mast at the bottom here to tidy up the airflow, again it's a very Bethweight thing, they effectively put a hook on either side of this pocket and you pull down on either side. Gives you some purchase without adding complexity, and it works really well. So that is our 59er dinghy. They're great boats. I've got to say, I was looking for a bigger, easy to sail 29er, and it is. It's not easy to sail like easy to sail boats are easy to sail. It's still a skiff. It still demands, you know, it's a bit tippy and it moves around a bit, but it's a lot easier than a 29er. And it's got enough power to accommodate it. In fact, it would be a really good boat full stop with trapeze if it really, and I'm sure things like the hull form and the sail shapes could be optimised to suit a trapeze boat, but none of that really matters if the sailing experience is good, and the sailing experience is good. The one thing that makes it harder is there's nowhere for Hannah to kind of push off with her feet to get out on trapeze. Oops. And the deck is all swoopy and curved because it's meant to be nice and comfortable for hiking, but when she wants to stand here, the deck is kind of sliding away from her, which makes it awkward. Otherwise, it's really good. So that's it. So if it's a very small market this, but if you've got a 59er and your sails are old and tired, and I bet they are because no one's bought new sails for a 59er in ages, 29er XX sails fit really well. I spoke to a guy called Nathan at Ovington's who did me a really good price on it. Talk to him, I'm sure he can sort you out, and tell him you came from me and that you saw us on here, because hopefully Nathan then will have will be able to do us a good price on the spinnaker, and we'll try the spinnaker as well. We happen to have a brand new unused 59er spinnaker, so I don't need to buy one, except they are very big and they're cut for going very deep. I'm suspecting the 29er X spinnaker will be a bit flatter and a bit smaller for going faster, and that actually might suit this boat better, but I'm not going to spend the money on a spinnaker and buy a new one to try out all the time I've got a good one. So Nathan, if you watch this, if you want to, in the interest of being able to sell your old stock, give me one to try, I'm more than willing to do it. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm Ian, this is Sailing with the Foxwell family. We'll catch you next time. Right, don't know how well this is going to come out because I'm recording on my phone. We've just been for a sail in like no wind, so it's very hard to tell, but there's a couple of things to note. One is my level boom looks great, but I think if you can see where the outhaul cleat is on the boom, it's a bit ruffled the sail, where because the boom is now, because the sail's now further down effectively, it's pulling down onto the boom, so really the boom needs to be 50mm lower at the gooseneck. Whether I can be bothered to do that I don't know yet, because it's only a fat matter of drilling out the rivets I think and moving it down, because I suspect the reinforced part of the mast is all the same there. But it also means then a longer nav strut, which is already at a steeper angle than you'd like because it's all a bit lower, so it's a bit more effort, but anyway, you can sail it as it is, so it's still good. The other thing is the jib, where I'm kind of 3 fingers high at the front. We had it on the middle hole in the clue board, but really I've just moved it to the upper hole just to sort of see what it looks like, but again there's no wind for me to check. But really either the jib wants to be a bit higher or I want to use it in the upper hole, but either way, again, that sets perfectly. So anyway, long and short, we're really happy. May not be the perfect fit for the boat, but they're very close, and it's very sailable.